Back at Dragonstone, as Queen Daenerys returned, the Unsullied warriors, of course, are still on their way to sail across to Dragonstone. She then hears a knock at the door as she's slowly getting her armor off. Your Grace, have you returned? Yes, I will be out in a moment. Very well. Then he turns and looks towards Ada Isa. Well, she has returned. I'm not sure what kind of mood she'll be in. Well, perhaps if the war has been won, perhaps it'll be somewhat of a good mood. Well, I certainly hope so. Otherwise, we could be in for whatever news she decides to bring us, good or bad. Daenerys then steps out in something more comfortable, wearing her warrior queen sword. If you're all worried about how I feel, you need not. The war is over. Really, Your Grace? Well, then I guess congratulations are in order. Yes, it must have been one interesting victory. Well, victory is something that came with a high price. I see. And so I take it the Dark Lord Valdar has been finished off. Yes, but not by our doing. There was one I met who I thought was very strange. She's very tall and had bright flowing red hair. Oh, so you have met the flame goddess, Lilith. Then he hands her a scroll. What is this? This is the scroll that your nephew, who you had not met since he grew up until, well, since I kind of got taken by him, but he made me write some things down so that his memory will not be lost for all eternity in obscurity. I see. Yes, I shall read this. I have much to learn about Aegon VI Targaryen, son of my eldest brother, Prince Rhaegar, and his wife Valeria Martell, the only survivor of 2 children, though the spider, who I despised at the time before I was slain, did something good, from what I understand, and at least saved my nephew, even though he could not reach his sister in time. I take it all went well, Your Grace. Yes, and as for you and Dana, I need you to send out ravens, both to the former House Blackfyre Castle, as well as to House Baratheon. It was my nephew, though I got to only speak with him briefly, last wish, that Edric Baratheon, formerly known as Storm, since Prince Aegon VI Targaryen did as I had done during the White Walker War and removed his bastardy. And I am going to grant that last wish, that his best friend, as they were since they grew up, though I was not aware of it, be laid the rest below the Red Keeps, amongst all the others Targaryens, because they grew up together and were the best of friends. I shall go ahead and do that. I thought that only Targaryens were allowed to be buried in the crypts below the Red Keep. It is true, but it was his last wish, according to this flame goddess Lilith, who I spoke to briefly, so I will honor that last wish. And now you have a duty to do. Yes, Your Grace, I shall send the ravens out immediately. And so she takes her leave. As for you, my dear old friend, thank you for this scroll. I should like to hope I'll learn as much as I can about a nephew I've never gotten acquainted with. Well, he was quite the interesting character, and as was Lilith, but she had more power than I have, as far as visions go. Way more. This sounds interesting. I thought she was only a myth and a legend. Well, when me and Miss Sandy were growing up, we heard some legend or rumor about how old Valeria had a type of kingdom guardian goddess known as the Flame Goddess. But no one seemed to know her name. And the fact that Queen Daenerys here described her with flowing bright red hair, that would make sense then that her name should be known as Lilith. Yes, it was an unusual meeting, but she was the guardian and protector of my nephew. While she seemed distraught about it, the goddesses of fire and ice assured her that she has redeemed herself since the time she was banished for making a wrong decision with this Dark Lord, long before any of us were born. In any case, she will be going to the spirit world, and as I understand it, the many-faced god is soon to join her because this world has been declared by the goddess of ice of the Valerian heavens of paradise, who came down when a dark lord of the seven hells thought he was going to claim us as well as Valdar, who failed him, that this is now a world of men and women, and that the times of gods and goddesses has now come to an end. So which means we will keep up our faith and whatever deities we so choose, but they will be in the heavens of paradise for the Valerian heavens that we all in many kingdoms come to believe in. As for right now, I would like to be left alone to read this scroll so I can get to know my nephew Aegon VI better than I have before Lord Tywin thought he had this mountain who rides destroy him. Very well, Your Grace. Alright, you heard her. Everybody cleared the room. She has some catching up to do with the family. So with that, they all bow and take their leave. At the old Blackfyre Castle, where the princess, now widow of Aegon VI Targaryen, is residing, taking care of the newborn son of Aegon VI, known as Prince Rhaegar II Targaryen. Lady Meleys, the now, since it was Aegon VI Targaryen's wish before he went to challenge Valdar to save his aunt, comes in. Your Grace, I have ordered everybody to stand ready at your command. We have received and cleaned up your deceased husband, Prince Aegon VI Targaryen, and have him properly covered, and is ready for transportation. Very well then. Any news from Kingslanding? Yes, we received a raven, sent from Dragonstone. Queen Daenerys has sent word that when we are ready, she will be already in Kingslanding and waiting to receive us to start the funeral procession. I would imagine somewhere along the way, Lord Edric Baratheon will have done the same, since it was Aegon VI Targaryen's last wish that they be laid to rest together below the Red Keeps, and Queen Daenerys has decided that she's going to honor that last wish of her nephew. That is very good, then. You have done well, Lady Meleys. I don't see any more need of you, and when I am ready, I will let you know, Your Grace. And so she bows and takes her leave. Then she goes over to her little one, who seems to be a little bit restless, with very bright blue eyes. Well, he looks very small. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, Lilith, but that would sound almost something like my deceased husband would say Well, maybe I have hung around him too much, but I would imagine he'll be strong one day. Yes, well, it is the only thing I regret is that he will not be here to see his nice son grow up. Take heart, Princess, all is not lost. For I do foresee that while your destiny is to return to your father's house of Golden Dragon, Daenerys can't be in two places at once, and perhaps it'd be a long overdue mending between that of, well, formerly known Blackfyre and House Targaryen, though you are actually from the House of Golden Dragon. Somebody has to keep the place up until her daughter is old enough, as she too has a baby, an heir. Well, this will be interesting then that both our newborns should meet. Yes, and I do believe that Queen Daenerys' baby has also been met with Queen Marjorie's son, though he may not be an heir to the realm of the kingdoms, but to that of Highgarden. Well, this will be quite the interesting meeting then. Well, I'm afraid I must go. You're departing so soon? Yes. When I was on the battlefield, I thought I had failed, but the goddess of ice, who came down when the Dark Lord of the Seven Hells thought he was going to claim us, after claiming Valdar, who failed him, that it is the time the world will be run by men, and the time for gods and goddesses have now since passed. My brother, who I have not seen in the longest time, the many-faced god, he will be joining me soon, but I had him pass a task on to a certain Lady Stark for something that needed to be taken care of because of the things that I had used in order to have Valdar prepped for being sent to the Seven Hills, and this time not to be found or ever awakened again. Should fall in the wrong hands, they could be used for evil. As I understand it, my brother, the many-faced god, has also a task for her, but that is between him and her to discuss. So I must take my leave. Will I ever see you again? Not likely, but if it gives you comfort, I would imagine I would be permitted to look down on you every now and then. At least you'll know I'll see you, but I will not have the powers like those who actually protect and abide in the spirit world, the Valerian heavens of paradise. Well then, I wish you speed and safety, and it was an honor to have known you. As you, Princess, may you live long and prosper for all time in this world now of men. And so with that, Lilith turns slowly, looks a little over her shoulder briefly at the babe, then at the mother, and then goes out the throne room and is never seen again. I want you, yes, your grace, to take note from here on out as you were the guardian guard to my late husband's best friend. Now you will be the guardian to Prince Rhaegar II. It will be an honor to be his protector, and I will not fail him. You did not fail your best, my husband's best friend. It was a time of war, and nothing can be done about that. Yes, your grace, and thank you. You, although I'm not sure why they call you a fishwife, do you do much fishing? No, your grace, I guess I just have a certain skill for dealing with most common fish. I guess that's why they call me the fishwife. Not that I would make a joke and say I was married to one. People all start laughing about this. Well, that is okay. Until I know of such time when there might be a wet nurse available, I would like you to be his nanny. Nanny. Well, I guess a fishwife nanny would be different, but I think that since you and your husband here spend most time together, what better way than to also look after Prince Rhaegar II? I would agree. And so with that, then, it all is said and done, and 2 appointments are made to protect Prince Rhaegar II, son of princess and widow of the decedent Prince Aegon VI Targaryen. As Arya Stark is riding with Sand Dune, and the prince and other men are tagging along because they don't really know a whole lot of areas in Westeros, they finally come to a halt when Arya sees a boat launch that leads into what would be a foggy type cloud hanging over the waters. This is it. This is where we get stopped from here. I will need you to come with me, because I cannot row and keep my eyes open for sandstone people at the same time. And this place looks kind of creepy, don't you think? Well, in any event, I have something that will keep them at bay. Something that the flame goddess gave me, the one you saw with bright red hair. Well, then you should have nothing to worry about. If I could trust you as my guard, you should be able to take Arya Stark's word and trust her as well. Yes, your grace. And besides, you have nothing to worry about. We will have to remain silent, of course, because stone people are attracted to sounds. That means we'll have to row slowly. And once we get to our destination, then I have to go on alone. I will let you know when this task will happen. All right. So with that, then, the prince of his clan and most men stay behind as Sandune and Arya get into the boat and launch off towards the murky, foggy waters towards old Valeria. After a while, they come into like a heavy, thick brush overgrowth area, and lo and behold, there is two emerald green obelisks. Though they are slightly dirty, it's not hard to tell that they are made almost like of a pure jewel. And they can see just below the water the rooftop of a crypt, possibly where the first of two princesses of the last king of old Valeria was laid to rest long ago, before the waters rose, and since they are watertight, would be empty inside except for her body, but no way to access it anyway. They make their way slowly. She looks at Sand Dune and holds up a finger. Shh, must be quiet. So they get close enough, and then they make it to the steps. She gets out and ties a rope to one of the trees. As long as you don't make noise, you'll be fine, but you cannot go with me from here. I bear something that will protect me, but it will not protect both of us. And again, I cannot make it back without you. Do you understand? Yes, I will stay and remain silent. Good. Then she takes out the heavy, long, black-wrapped spear of judgment and staff of the abyss, which are wrapped in heavy, felt-like silk cloth. And though slightly heavy, trying to carry both of them, manages to pack them on her shoulder best she can, and then starts going up to the steps and looks back. I will be back as soon as I can. Remember what I told you. Not a word. And he holds up his hand. I vow I will be silent. Okay then. Here goes nothing. So then she makes her way up to the steps, and thus becomes the scene of her long-awaited journey for two stops that she has to make, according to the instructions of Lilith, the Blame Goddess. Upon clearing the thick trees, it opens up to a grass, mossy-covered area. Steps on either side go up, while another set of stairs goes downward, under what would look like a passageway. When she goes down slowly, though she hears trees cracking, she stops, partly frightened, looking around, but doesn't see any movement, and continues on her way down below. Once inside, she recalls the instructions that she was to look for a panel that had a couple of hook-like racks on a plain, smooth surface. This must be where this first one, Spear of Judgment, goes. So as best she can, and as quietly as she can, though it does kind of make a tinging sound with metal touching each other, she puts it into place, stops, doesn't move, and listens. Okay, so far no sound, nobody's behind me. Okay, one more to go. So she wraps up the staff of the abyss, and this will be a further distance, further into more dangers. After she cleared the molten lava lake that has a unknown castle that could withstand heat and doesn't seem to melt, she finally makes it across, wiping the sweat from her forehead. Oh, man. I sure as the seven hells would not want to be a priestess in this temple. So she makes it down through the hall and then recalls the other instructions to look for a grate with holes, but not to be careless and stand on it because it is of old age and ancient times. And as she goes down through, who knows what lies beneath? Perhaps the spiders that Dana was talking about, in which case Arya would be a snack for the giant spiders. So she walks around the square hole and finds a slot. This must be where this goes. So she unwraps it and pulls it out. And as carefully as she can, although this time she can't help it, she puts the bottom end through and hears click, 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 and a loud snapping sound of locks into place. Damn it. Why did you have to make it so noisy? I guess it's because they didn't want anyone to steal it when old Valeria's around. So, with it being put in place, she rolls up the black cloth and drapes it around her neck. Can't wait to get the seven hells out of here. What am I saying? Is that she doesn't say another word, almost laughs to herself about what she just said, and then makes her way back across the molten lava lake. Suddenly, everything became quiet, except for the sound and rumblings of the volcanoes putting out the gaseous clouds like vents, and occasional bubbling plops of the lava lake behind her. She looks to hear something like falling rocks or something, and up way ahead of her, she sees figures moving on the sharp razor rocks. Then they start running, not towards her, but to wherever it is they can get to her. Oh, damn, they must have picked up my scent. So with that, she then, as carefully as she can, so she don't slip off in lava or in some other area where there could be giant spiders, although she's not aware of it, starts running for her life. Suddenly she stops at a gasp, seeing a different type of stone person standing amongst ivy and rock, which she may have not noticed before when he was standing there, if he was standing there at all. Stops suddenly, and then suddenly she finds herself being encircled by the other stone people, but then he gives a grunt, and they all stop. And he looks at her. With shaky hands, she carefully pulls out the jeweled necklace, which is supposed to keep them back. He merely looks at it and curls up his left lip, like as if to say, like that's going to do me any good, because he is a leader, and not what she has will affect him, but only the others. Without thinking, she doesn't know what else to do, so she throws the black wrapped felt velvet heavy covering at him, and he catches it with one hand and then sniffs it. She looks around, thinking this might be her end, and then she sees something very unusual. The sister to the many-faced god, whom she did not meet, but was following the instructions, Lilith, just happened to be on scene, probably checking to see if she's okay, and points downward at Lilith, or at Arya, and then with her left hand motions to hold up higher, and then moves her right hand pointing downward at her swiftly to the right like a shortcut. Arya, for some reason, seems to think she understands, nods her head, and holds the thing higher. The leader then, noticing this, looks up at Lilith, and then gives some kind of grunt commands to the others. And the others, they just allow her to pass slowly. But like with Lilith, they move with her in a tight circle formation, but not going near her as Arya takes steps, circling about as she moves forward, so that they all see that she has the protective necklace held up high. Then, when they least look, and she hears a grunt, and they all go towards the leader, and then quickly takes off to the shortcut that Lilith pointed out. As she looks up, Lilith is nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, Sam Dunes is startled and sees that Arya is almost wanting to fall down the long steps as she's descending towards him, And Arya at the same time sees that he looks just about as white as a ghost and petrified himself. Alright, we need to leave here as soon as possible. I couldn't agree with you more. You won't believe the things I saw. Well, we'll talk about it later when we get to a safe distance. And so without any hesitation, they shove off after she untied the rope that held the boat in place to the tree and make their way back to the boat launch of where the rest of the party of the nomads and the prince await them. From a distance, Arya Stark and Sand Dune finally come out of the foggy area with the dragons that hang over the waters leading to the back area of ancient Valeria. As they then come to the boat launch and tie the boat up, they are greeted by Nahara, the prince of the nomads. So, I take all went well then. Well, it's a place I never want to go again. Yes, I would have to agree with your royal guard here. It was more than the excitement I cared for, to say the least. So, shall we be off then? Yes. Sand Dune here says that as we were traveling and it was safe to speak, that apparently some giant creatures with multi-legs and red and blue coloring were traveling through the bushes, and he hunkered down in the boat, doing as I told him not to make a sound. Apparently, those without long spear-like beaks had tapped him on the leg, not to cause him harm, but most likely probably testing to see if any movement would happen, partly hanging in the trees, while the other leg or two tapped him on his leg, but he was so petrified he must have been frozen, and so it moved off. I, on the other hand, was being chased by stone people, but there was this one that didn't seem affected by the necklace that I had been given of protection. However, a mysterious thing happened. I saw a woman with bright red hair I've never seen before, and she pointed down at me, lifting her left hand high, and then moved her arm to the right. So I understood that it was a shortcut, and as I moved about slowly and the stone people who encircled me moved with me, I heard a final grunt, and then this one, who I threw the black covering to, he threw it around his shoulders after making a grunt, and as if to wave goodbye to me backwards. Well, then let us be off. It's going to be dark soon. Perhaps he was telling us to get out of his territory or shooing us off. So with that, they all mount their horses and head back to the Reach. Back at Dragonstone, finally, Greyworm finally shows up. Your Grace, all Unsullied warriors report ready for duty. Very well then. I would imagine you all are tired from your journey thus far. We know any tiresome. We travel until you tell us not to. All right then. We have one trip to make. We're going to be heading to King's Landing. Have the Unsullied warriors ready. Will you be taking dragons? No. I want to earn the trust of the people. I made that mistake before. This time, perhaps if I come by horse, they will accept me and welcome me. I can only hope. Then she looks over towards Dana. You have something to report? Yes. The ravens have been sent off to House Baratheon and the old former House Blackfyre. All will be done, as I have received the return responses that they are on the way. Good. I want you to stay here with the nursemaid and with some of the officials here and a few Unsullied warriors, which Greyworm, and he nods. Yes, Your Grace. Have them stationed here as well. We will not need all of them. After all, we're not trying to scare the realm of the kingdom. So, your services will be best suited here. I intend to appoint someone to be in my stead here at Dragonstone when I have finally coronated that which rightfully belongs to me as Queen of the Realm, Daenerys Stormborn Targaryen. Yes, Your Grace. Then she looks over at the Palace Visionary. You, my old friend, I have learned much, though it would have been better if I would have learned from my nephew, Aegon VI, personally, but he does seem to have a bit of arrogant yet humorous side of him, based on everything I've read. Well, it was quite the experience for me, as I'm sure it was. But I would like you to remain here as well. Yes, Your Grace. I shall look after things in your absence. When the time is right, I will send for you. Then she looks over at Damien III. You will come with me. If all goes well, I will send you back with word of everything that has gone well with Coronation and the funeral rites. Yes, Your Grace. Here to serve, and I will obey any command that you give. Good to hear, then. And so with that, then they set sail for King's Landing. On, though, had nobody noticed, it would occur that the two who had escaped the powers that were pulling all of the Legion of Dark Lord Valdar, the Vizier of ancient Valeria, into the Seven Hells opening, have survived, and he comes back with clothing, and they each then get out of whatever outfits they were wearing, burying them in a hole that they dug and covering it with dirt. He then looked towards where they came from. I see. Well, judgment has passed. The opening to the Valerian heavens of paradise has now closed. I believe this means then that the Lord of the Seven Hells has decided not to engage in Armageddon, as he would probably most likely not be ready. And where did you get these clothes? Well, I liberated them. You stole clothes. It's bad enough that they'll probably be looking for us because we were not pulled in the Seven Hells, and now somebody's going to be looking for us because we stole their clothes. Well, I doubt anybody will be looking for us because why would you think that? Well, because where we're going, though Valdar was not smart enough to see more than a spell book hidden behind a wall in the Castle of the Dam, and a scroll, not too big, not a whole lot of information, but I would imagine it had something to do with the youngest of two daughters of the last king of ancient Valeria, given permission by her father to go see about exploring beyond the known world at that time, as I'm sure not much has changed anyway, down to the southern region. Isn't that going to be dangerous? I mean, there could be insects, animals of unknown origin, or like those wyverns that Valdor called upon. We might not even survive. Would you rather stay here and that perhaps if someone were to get wise, we'd be captured and meet the other fate? No, I suppose not. Well, I guess we'll be living a lonely life. However, if you want to ask me for my hand, as I don't imagine there'll be any others who are civilized, and whether the princess is still alive or did rebuild this city, as I believe when you weren't looking, I read this scroll. Oh, well, I see some of your skills haven't been hidden. Yes, well, neither was yours in stealing clothes. They both laughed about that. But I guess it serves a purpose. I hope you left something in exchange for our stealing these clothes from them. Yes, some of the original gold pieces of ancient Valeria. It would probably be worth more than the clothes we stole because there's none other like it. They have something called gold dragons, but nothing like what ancient Valeria had. So for them, it'll be a mystery as to how it showed up. Perhaps they'll want to try and investigate, although I'm sure none will venture into the ancient Valeria to see how it was someone could get there to get the gold coins, not knowing that they actually came from me. In any case, I believe we should make our way then. And I would be happy to have you as my companion for the rest of our lives. As would I then. So he gently kisses her as she kisses him. They mount their horses, hold hands for a bit looking at each other, and slowly cross the path through the jungle opening to a world never explored beyond that of Setharos.